In the silence of the ancient Roman halls, amid the clamor of an empire constantly at war, stood a man whose mind was stronger than any sword. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome and one of the greatest Stoic philosophers to ever live, did not seek glory, applause, or conquest. He sought control over himself. Leadership, to him, was not about domination. It was about responsibility, clarity, and peace amidst the chaos. In his personal journal, never intended for the world to see, he wrote thoughts that still echo centuries later. These meditations were not sermons, nor were they commands to his people. They were quiet, brutally honest notes to himself. And yet, in those humble pages, lie the foundations of timeless leadership. Today's world is no less chaotic than the empire Marcus ruled. Our battles may look different, emails instead of invasions, deadlines instead of sieges, but the demands on the modern leader are just as relentless. That's why his lessons matter now more than ever. His leadership did not rely on charisma or strategy alone. It was built on inner discipline, unwavering values, and the courage to face life as it is, not as we wish it to be. Aurelius believed that before one could lead others, one must first master oneself. And so, he trained his thoughts like a soldier would train his sword. He asked himself daily, "Am I acting in accordance with reason? Am I letting emotions cloud my duty?" He understood that leadership without self-control was merely vanity in motion. That the greatest threat to any leader comes not from external enemies, but from the leader's own pride, distraction, and impulses. To lead as a Stoic is to lead from the inside out. It is to maintain composure not because everything is calm, but because you are. Imagine a storm surrounding a lighthouse. The winds roar, the waves crash, and yet the light remains steady. That is the Stoic leader, present, alert, but unshaken. Marcus Aurelius did not pretend the world was easy. He acknowledged its brutality, its betrayals, its constant tests. And yet, he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." These words are more than poetic. They are the code of Stoic leadership. A modern leader is pulled in every direction. Economic pressures, team dynamics, personal doubt. But the Stoic does not react impulsively. They pause. They observe. And then they act, with purpose, not panic. Marcus often reminded himself that what stands in the way becomes the way. In other words, every obstacle is an opportunity to lead with greater clarity and character. When the path becomes difficult, it is not a sign to quit. It is a sign that leadership is truly being tested. He wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." There is no need for performance or image. The Stoic leader does not need applause to act rightly. Leadership, in this sense, becomes invisible. It is not about control over others. It is about influence through consistency. It is about being calm when others panic, being principled when others compromise, and being steady when everything else shakes. This mindset doesn't come naturally. It must be cultivated daily, like a garden of the mind. Marcus Aurelius began each day with a mental rehearsal of adversity. He reminded himself, "Today, I will meet people who are selfish, arrogant, deceitful." Not to become cynical, but to become prepared. He knew that to expect the world to behave ideally is to set yourself up for frustration. And so, the Stoic accepts that difficulty is part of the deal. Leadership is not about escaping hardship, it's about rising through it. His discipline extended even to his thoughts. He questioned every emotion that passed through his mind. Not to suppress them, but to understand them. Is this anger useful? Is this fear grounded in reality? The modern leader can learn from this introspection. Emotional intelligence, long before it had a name, was something Marcus practiced relentlessly. He knew that anger was often weakness dressed as strength, and that true courage was the ability to remain rational even in the face of injustice. But Stoic leadership isn't cold. It isn't distant. In fact, it demands a deep compassion. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that every person he encountered shared the same divine spark. "They are my kin," he wrote, "even when they act in ignorance." This perspective is crucial. The modern leader, too, must see beyond performance metrics and agendas. You lead people, not machines. And people are complex, imperfect, emotional, and worthy of patience. There's a quiet humility in all his teachings. Though he held absolute power, Marcus constantly reminded himself of his own mortality, his own flaws, his limited understanding. This is the heart of Stoic leadership, not acting like a god, but remembering that you are human, and so is everyone else. Pride is the enemy of wisdom, and wisdom, in the Stoic sense, is the foundation of all great leadership. So how does this translate into the modern world? It begins with self-mastery. Before you hold others accountable, hold yourself accountable. Before you lead a team into a new strategy, ask if you have clarity in your own values. Before you seek influence, make sure your mind is not ruled by ego. Marcus led an empire, but his real battle was with himself, his impulses, his frustrations, his fears. And he won that battle not with force, but with truth. He faced himself every day, not with shame, but with honesty. That is what made him powerful. In a world obsessed with hacks, shortcuts, and external validation, the Stoic path feels ancient, but it is timeless. Because human nature has not changed. Distractions may come faster, opinions louder, but the need for calm, centered, principled leadership is more urgent than ever. To lead like Marcus is not to be perfect. It is to strive daily, patiently, quietly, toward a better version of yourself, not to impress others, but to stay aligned with the truth. And so, we begin this journey, not into history, but into timeless wisdom. We are not here to admire Marcus Aurelius. We are here to learn from him, to walk beside his thoughts, and to apply them not in marble halls, but in boardrooms, in classrooms, in homes, in daily decisions. Because the Stoic leader is not a role, it is a way of being. And that journey begins now. To walk the path of a Stoic leader is to commit to a lifelong discipline. And as we continue exploring the legacy of Marcus Aurelius, one truth becomes clear. Leadership is not an external title, but an internal posture. It is not earned through followers, it is maintained through self-command. The greatest enemy to lasting leadership, Marcus believed, was not failure, it was forgetfulness. Forgetfulness of what truly matters. Forgetfulness of what we can and cannot control. Forgetfulness of our place in the universe. Each morning, he grounded himself by contemplating impermanence. Soon you will be ashes or bones, he wrote. A name or not even a name. These words may seem bleak, but they are not. They are freeing. For Marcus, remembering death wasn't morbid, it was motivational. It helped him prioritize, to let go of petty arguments, distractions, and ego-driven pursuits. The Stoic leader doesn't fear death, they fear wasting life. And that urgency creates clarity. In the noise of leadership, decisions, opinions, praise, criticism, the Stoic returns again and again to what they can control. Their actions, their values, their mindset. Everything else, fortune, reputation, outcome, is indifferent. Not unimportant, but beyond our command. This is the foundation of ataraxia, the Stoic's inner peace. A mind that is undisturbed not because life is easy, but because the leader is aligned with what truly matters. And so, Marcus trained himself not to be seduced by praise nor crushed by blame. He warned, do not waste what remains of your life in speculating about others. The modern leader, flooded with opinions on social media, the scrutiny of stakeholders, and the temptation to perform rather than lead, must anchor themselves just as firmly. Leadership that depends on applause will crumble in silence. Leadership rooted in principle remains, even when unseen. But principles alone are not enough. Discipline is the bridge between intention and reality. Marcus practiced prosoke, a state of constant attention to the present moment. He trained his awareness like a muscle, catching himself in moments of laziness, distraction, or complaint. He knew that great leaders are not forged in grand moments, but in the accumulation of small, daily acts done with integrity. The email written with patience. The meeting led with presence. The crisis handled without ego. Each moment was a test of character. He often reminded himself that the only life he had was this one, this breath, this task. Concentrate every minute, he wrote, on doing what's in front of you with precise and genuine seriousness. This was not a rejection of ambition, but a redefinition of it. Real ambition, to a Stoic, is not chasing more, but being fully alive in less. It's not becoming louder, but becoming clearer. And the Stoic leader finds their strength in this clarity. Modern leadership often rewards speed, but Stoicism trains depth. It asks, are you acting or reacting? Are you building something that lasts, or chasing short-term wins? Marcus resisted haste. He reminded himself not to be jerked like a puppet by every impulse. This self-command is rare, but it is what creates stability, in life, in leadership, in legacy. He also embraced discomfort, not as suffering, but as training. When faced with adversity, Marcus didn't wish it away. He reframed it. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This mindset transforms setbacks into stepping stones. The modern leader, too, must develop this ability, not just to endure pressure, but to use it. Challenges become sharpening stones. Delay becomes patience. Criticism becomes self-reflection. Every external difficulty becomes an internal discipline. But this journey is not meant to be traveled alone. Though he was emperor, Marcus constantly reminded himself of his dependence on others. What is not good for the hive, he said, is not good for the bee. Stoicism is not selfish. It is not about detachment from people. It is about detachment from illusion. And part of the Stoic leader's responsibility is to uplift those around them, not through inspiration alone, but through example. By being the calmest person in the room. By being honest when it's uncomfortable. By choosing the harder right over the easier wrong. He believed that reason connects all humans. Therefore, to harm another was to harm oneself. The Stoic leader does not act from vengeance or resentment. They do not weaponize power. They lead with logos, reason, fairness, and wisdom. And when others fail or fall short, the Stoic does not respond with anger, but with perspective. When you wake up, Marcus wrote, expect to meet people who are meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, deceitful, envious, and unsocial. He did not say this to justify bitterness, but to prepare compassion. Because everyone acts according to what they believe is good. And often, they are simply mistaken. This compassion requires strength. Weak leaders punish quickly. Strong leaders pause. They see beyond the moment. Marcus urged himself to respond, as if you were already dead. Not with hopelessness, but with fearlessness. If nothing can truly harm the soul, then nothing can disturb its peace. This is the armor of the Stoic leader, not arrogance, not avoidance, but acceptance. Not passivity, but presence. The power to stand tall even when the world shakes. Aurelius also had no illusions about his own flaws. He was constantly reminding himself to stay humble. Don't imagine that what's hard for you to master is humanly impossible, he said. But if it's humanly possible, consider it to be within your reach. This belief was his antidote to doubt. And for the modern leader drowning in comparison, imposter syndrome, or perfectionism, this reminder is vital. Growth is not about talent, it is about truth and tenacity. His humility was not weakness, it was wisdom. He knew that the role of the leader is not to know everything, but to never stop learning. Not to control others, but to govern oneself. Not to impress, but to serve. And this redefinition of leadership is radical in a world that celebrates image over integrity. But the Stoic does not chase trends. They return to timeless truths. This is why Marcus Aurelius remains relevant. He did not write to teach us. He wrote to remind himself. And in that vulnerability, we find our guide, not to copy him, but to cultivate our own inner fortress. A mind that is watchful. A spirit that is still. A leader who is, above all, human. And so the Stoic path unfolds, step by step, decision by decision. A daily practice, not a destination. In the next part of this journey, we will explore how Marcus Aurelius applied these principles in moments of real crisis, wars, betrayals, loss, and leadership under fire. Because Stoicism is not theory. It is tested only in the heat of life. And Marcus passed that test, not because he was perfect, but because he never stopped striving to lead from within. The true worth of Stoic leadership is not revealed in comfort, but in conflict. And nowhere was this more evident than in the life of Marcus Aurelius. Though remembered as the philosopher king, his reign was marked not by serenity but by struggle. He faced plagues, betrayals, political instability, and relentless wars on the empire's borders. But through it all, he practiced what he wrote. Stoicism for Marcus was not a luxury, it was survival. He was not spared pain. He lost children. He endured chronic illness. He was often alone. But these were not excuses to surrender his values. They were opportunities to deepen them. When the Antonine Plague devastated the empire, killing millions, Marcus did not retreat. He led with presence and responsibility. He attended to public health, rationed supplies, and maintained order without descending into panic or blame. His stoicism gave him clarity in chaos, a model for today's leaders in crisis. One of the most powerful reflections from his journal during this time was this: "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." It wasn't a declaration of indifference, but of focus. He didn't try to stop the storm. He built a stillness within it. That mindset gave him resilience, not just to endure hardship, but to lead others through it. Even within his own ranks, Marcus was betrayed. A trusted general, Avidius Cassius, declared himself emperor while Marcus was still alive. The threat of civil war loomed. But Marcus did not respond with vengeance. He did not unleash terror. In fact, he asked the Senate to pardon Cassius's supporters. Why? Because his goal was harmony, not revenge. His ego did not eclipse his reason. This is the Stoic response to betrayal, not naivety, but wisdom. Marcus understood that people act from fear, ignorance, and desire. And to meet aggression with aggression only multiplies harm. Instead, he chose justice over wrath, logic over pride. This is the mark of true inner authority, the power to hold peace even when wronged. In his meditations, he wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." And that philosophy shaped his leadership style. Modern leaders, too, are often faced with backstabbing, misinformation, or disloyalty. The Stoic leader resists the impulse to strike back. They ask, "What action preserves my principles? What response aligns with who I am, not how I feel?" That does not mean weakness. Marcus was still a general. He defended his people. But his strength was measured, not explosive, not performative. He embodied the Stoic virtue of sophrosyne, balance, self-control, moderation. And from that restraint, he found clarity. Clear enough to govern justly. Strong enough to stay human in inhuman times. One of the greatest internal battles Marcus fought was with his own ego. As Emperor of Rome, the most powerful man in the world, it would have been easy to drift into arrogance. But his writings are filled with reminders to stay grounded. Do not waste the remainder of your life in thoughts about others, when you do not refer your thoughts to some object of common utility. This is not self-centeredness. It is focus. He knew that scattered attention is the enemy of effective leadership. Marcus regularly reminded himself that fame is fleeting, that the applause of others will soon fade. He often wrote about the graves of long-forgotten rulers, heroes, and celebrities. "All is ephemeral," he said. "Fame is a noise made on the breath of others." This sobering truth helped him detach from vanity and commit to substance. He didn't lead to be remembered. He led to do what was right while he still breathed. He also confronted the fear of loss of health, loss of loved ones, loss of control. But Stoicism trained him not to cling. Receive without pride. Let go without attachment. This is one of the most difficult disciplines a leader can develop. To care deeply, but not possessively. To give your all, while knowing you control very little. It's not about being emotionless. Marcus felt pain. But he didn't let pain rule him. He practiced premeditatio malorum, imagining obstacles in advance so that he wouldn't be shaken when they came. Not to become pessimistic, but to prepare. Because a Stoic leader is not surprised by adversity, they are shaped by it. He understood the concept of euthymia, what Seneca described as inner cheerfulness and contentment. Not the fleeting happiness of pleasure, but the solid peace of a well-lived life. That peace doesn't depend on outcomes, but on living in agreement with nature, with reason, with virtue, with service. As the empire faltered around him, Marcus kept writing, thinking, and reflecting, not because he had time, but because he needed clarity. He wasn't born wise. He fought for wisdom. And that effort is what defines his legacy. He never pretended to have it all figured out. That's what makes his meditations so human. They are not commands from a throne. They are reminders from a man in the trenches of leadership, asking himself every day, am I being just? Am I being kind? Am I staying true to what I believe? And those questions remain the compass for any modern leader who seeks not just to succeed, but to matter. In the next and final section, we will bring together all these elements: discipline, reflection, integrity, resilience, and explore how they form a timeless model for enduring leadership. Not through charisma or domination, but through character. Because Marcus Aurelius showed us that while empires fall, the virtues of a Stoic leader endure. In the end, what made Marcus Aurelius a remarkable leader wasn't his title or his army. It wasn't his wealth or influence. It was his mind, trained, focused, principled. He ruled an empire, yes. But more importantly, he ruled himself. And that is the essence of Stoic leadership. Self-mastery as the foundation of external mastery. The modern world is full of noise, distractions, opinions, outrage, constant demands. We are pulled in every direction, told to chase status, attention, and applause. But Marcus reminds us that leadership is not about being everything to everyone. It is about anchoring yourself in the few things that truly matter: wisdom, justice, courage, and discipline. These four virtues were the Stoic compass, and still are. He wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." That's the challenge for every modern leader. Don't wait for clarity. Don't wait for permission. Embody the values you admire. Led by being, not just by saying. The world does not need more loud voices. It needs more quiet strength. Stoicism is not about suppressing emotion. It is about mastering reaction. When insulted, do you retaliate or reflect? When challenged, do you crumble or choose clarity? When praised, do you inflate or stay humble? Marcus taught that your dignity is not up for auction. It's yours to guard. And in leadership, that integrity is everything. In a society obsessed with quick results and flashy success, the Stoic leader takes the longer view. They know that real change takes time. That influence is earned, not granted. That the most powerful leaders are often the least dramatic. Because they do not need to prove themselves, they are already rooted. Marcus was not perfect. He made mistakes. He had doubts. But he returned to his principles, again and again. His writings are a testament to that struggle. And in those pages, we find a roadmap, not just for leadership, but for life. He reminds us that we don't control events, only our response. That every obstacle is an opportunity to practice virtue. That hardship is not a curse, but a test. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. That line alone can guide a lifetime of leadership. Consider this: every frustration you face as a leader, a difficult teammate, a failed project, an unfair criticism, is a forge. A place to burn away ego, impatience, and pride. A place to shape patience, empathy, and strength. The Stoics didn't just talk about resilience. They lived it. Imagine leading not from fear, but from clarity. Not with manipulation, but with integrity. Not chasing applause, but serving a cause. That's what Marcus did, day after day, under the weight of an empire. And that's what any leader can do, whether they lead a team, a company, or simply themselves. He knew that leadership is not a performance. It is a practice. Not about control, but about character. And character is built one choice at a time. You choose honesty when lying is easier. You choose calm when anger tempts you. You choose service when selfishness whispers in your ear. And those choices accumulate. They shape who you are, and what kind of leader you become. Even at the end of his life, Marcus stayed true. As death approached, he did not panic. He reflected. He accepted. Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over you. While you live, while it is in your power, be good. That wasn't resignation. It was motivation. A reminder to lead with urgency, not anxiety. With purpose, not panic. The modern leader faces pressures Marcus could never have imagined: social media, global crises, technological acceleration. But the internal battle is the same. Will you be ruled by noise, or guided by reason? Will you chase image, or live by principle? Marcus offers a path. Not easy, not glamorous, but enduring. You lead yourself first. You clarify your values. You act with intention. You endure with grace. And in doing so, you become a beacon, not of power, but of purpose. So let this be your reminder. You do not need to be emperor to be stoic. You do not need a throne to lead. You only need your mind, your values, and the courage to live them. Leadership begins when you take responsibility for yourself. And stoic leadership endures when you take that responsibility seriously. Marcus Aurelius is gone. His empire crumbled. But his legacy lives. Not in monuments, but in meditations. In the quiet pages he wrote to himself, and now to us. They whisper through the centuries. Be strong, be just, be wise, be free. That is the Stoic leader. And that leader can be you.